After you navigate to eclipse.org/downloads, if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see a spot where you can get Eclipse Oxygen. It will take you to a download link, and that download link will take a moment to download to your desktop. After you have the exe downloaded and launched, we're going to select the Eclipse IDE for Java EE developers, and this will walk you through downloading the program and installing it. Fast forward until after the installation is complete and click the launch button, and it will launch Eclipse for you. The first time will take a little bit longer than subsequent times. When you launch Eclipse, it's going to ask you where your directory for your workspace is located. Your workspace is a folder on the computer that will house all of your projects that you work on in Eclipse. The default is fine for this. Typically, it's in like your users, your username, and then like workspace folder, or like mine's an Eclipse-workspace folder. So you can change this if you want to put it in documents or something along those lines. Just remember where it is, because you'll want to create a shortcut to it on your desktop. I actually already have one on my desktop so that I can get to it quickly and submit our Java files. After this, I'm going to click Launch. While this finished launching, I also want to point out that you can have multiple workspaces. So if you were working on one for a class, for example, one for a side project you were doing, you could have two different workspaces, and those projects that you're working on in those workspaces would only appear in the current workspace that you'd be working with. The first time that Eclipse is launched, after you select your workspace, you'll be brought to a tutorial or a welcome screen. I'm just going to close out of this. There's an X up here at the top. And then you'll be brought into your workspace, your Eclipse workspace. And there's a couple things going on here. I'll just show you right away. Over here on the left-hand side is your Project Explorer. This is where your projects that you create in Eclipse will show up. Down here along the bottom are just several helper tabs. We eventually will get to the data source and the servers, but we'll also add the console down here. It'll pop up automatically. Over here on the right-hand side are outline and task lists. For more screen real estate, I usually minimize these so I can spend my time or use my space coding. So right here in this big open space in the front is where your code will show up that you work in Java. If you close something on accident, you can always maximize it again by hitting that double window, and that will restore it to the original size. Same thing down here. You can minimize that if you need more screen real estate, and then open it back up again. These areas can be moved around, so you can dock them onto the other side if you'd like this, or you can keep it at the bottom. You'll figure out what works for you as you get going. As you're working in Eclipse, if you ever get to the point where you don't have any idea what happened with your workspace, or you're missing an important area in Eclipse, you can always go down to Show View, and you can add those pieces back in case you accidentally closed them. To get you started in Eclipse, we're going to create just an intro project by going over to File and clicking New. These are all kinds of different projects that we can use. We're actually going to come back to these throughout the rest of our course. Right now we're going to go down to Other, and we're just going to pick a simple Java project to get us started. So down here under Class Interface Java Projects, we're just looking for Java project, and we'll click Next. We're going to be asked to give the project a name. So we'll call this project Introduction. Typically all the defaults here are just fine. Make sure that you've got Java SE 1.8 here. The default location for the project is fine as well, and we're going to click Finish. The different types of projects have different perspectives with them. So we currently don't have the Java perspective loaded yet. This is going to open that. So we're going to head and say Open Perspective. So by creating that introduction project, what that's done is set up some pieces inside of our workspace. So I'm going to open up my workspace so you can see what that looks like. So I have two folders already there, metadata and remote system temp files. No worries about those. But you can see that it created an introduction folder as well. Inside that introduction folder are some basic Eclipse files. We have a settings, a class path, and a project. Those we will never mess with, and we want to make sure that we don't delete them. There are also two other folders in here, a source folder and a bin folder. As we get started working in Java, I'll explain to you what those two folders do. We're going to create a Java class. Now, I know you don't know what a Java class is yet, but you will soon. And we're going to call this Getting Started Your Last Name. Now we have a new class inside of our introduction project called Getting Started Your Last Name. It's a public class. We'll talk more about public on down the road, what that means. Class means that it is a class, and then the title of the class is Getting Started Kleindorfer. Every Java project has to have a public static void main method. And this will tell the Java virtual machine where to start running your program. The capitalization does matter, so public static void main should all be lowercase. The capital S should be in string, and then args will all be lowercase. And then it has an opening and closing square bracket after args. After we open up this method, the main method, we put curly brackets at the beginning and at the end. So everything that we want this main method to do is going to go in between these two curly brackets. For now, we're just going to use a system printout, which will allow us to print out to a console, just a simple message. So system.out.println will provide you with a means to print out to the console. It's just going to print out a line. Now, all of our Java statements end in a semicolon. There are a few exceptions to that that we'll talk about as we get working in Java. Right now, anything that we want to be printed out, we're going to put in between double quotes to treat it as a string. Right now, this project or this class has not been saved. I can tell that because there is this little asterisk up here that tells me that it hasn't been saved. I have a couple ways I can save it. I can use the save buttons up here, or I can also have it saved whenever I run it. I can also use Control S on my keyboard, and that will save it. After I save it, I'm going to run it. So now you're about ready to run your first Java program. This play button, this green play button, will run the Java program. So if you click this, it will open up the console, which appears down here at the bottom, and you'll see the console tab, and you should be able to see, hello, welcome to class. You've just ran and written your first Java program.